Hey guys, we're going to be checking out the UI performance between the Galaxy S5 on the left versus the HTC One M8 on the right. Now both these devices are running the latest version of Android to date, that is of course 4.4.2 KitKat, but they both have their respective OEM skins, the Galaxy S5 having TouchWiz versus the M8 having Sense 6. Both these devices have been freshly booted and they are of course running stock settings, and there's nothing in the memory as you can see, so we'll start this off with an app speed test. Here we go. Now in terms of the specs, the Galaxy S5 has a Snapdragon 801 processor clocked at 2.5 GHz, and that's accompanied by 2 GB of RAM. The HTC M8 also has a Snapdragon 801 processor, but it's slightly lower clocked at around 2.3 GHz, and of course it also comes with that 2 GB of RAM. So what we've been seeing here is basically both these devices are very quick at opening apps, but there really isn't much of a difference between the two. Facebook was really the only application that opened a little bit faster on the Galaxy S5, but that's about it. Otherwise they're pretty much identical. And we're definitely not seeing that extra 200 MHz on the Galaxy S5 making much of a difference, at least not in the app opening speed anyway. The camera actually opened a little bit quicker on the HTC One M8, again showing you that 200 MHz isn't really making much of a difference. I then went ahead and turned the animations off and did the same test for a few of the applications. Basically, yeah, there's no difference really in the app opening speed. Both are very quick. They're near identical, but we're definitely not seeing that extra 200 MHz make much of a difference here. Now next up we got the multitasking. So first I wanted to see how quickly it could pull up the menus, and you'll see in slow motion that the M8 is definitely the first to react. There's a slightly different animation between the two, but it is quicker on the M8 versus the Galaxy S5, which has that little pause. Now when you actually start switching between the apps, this is where the M8 feels quite a bit more responsive and fluid over the Galaxy S5, which has a noticeable pause in between actions, especially when you're hitting the multitasking key. Now while it might not seem like much, when you add all these little pauses, it does actually affect the fluidity of the device, as I'll show you a little bit later in the video. But you can basically see with every application that I switch to, there is a slight pause, whereas the M8 seems to react pretty much instantly under my finger, and it does feel closer to the fluidity that I got on my Nexus 5 running stock Android. Now once we get to Chrome, and from that point on, the Galaxy S5 is having to reload the application, whereas the M8 still has the app in memory. Again, both of these have 2 GB of RAM, so either Samsung is being overly aggressive with the RAM management, or thanks to the RAM intensive TouchWiz and the number of Samsung apps that come pre-installed on the Galaxy S5, it's running out of memory and having to free up the used RAM, which can be really annoying and will affect the multitasking experience. Now don't get me wrong, the Galaxy S5 is not a slow device by any means, but it does fall behind the M8 in fluidity and snappiness in some areas, which can make a difference to the overall experience you have with the device. Now hopefully this next demonstration will show you exactly what I mean. Multitasking on the M8 is a breeze. It switches between the apps very quickly and fluidly, and I'm able to switch with pretty much no delay, and it makes for a great user experience. The apps are staying in memory, there isn't any reloading, and it's all very quick. Now watch me do this same test on the Galaxy S5, and straight away you'll notice it isn't the same. It's definitely a little bit slower thanks to those pauses, those little micro lags that are in between the transitions, and it's definitely going to break up your fluid user experience. Now you'll see that some of the applications require reloading, and that breaks it up even more. There's also delays present in the gallery and also when you transition over to the My Magazine section. So there you go guys. Now I don't mind OEMs skinning Android to add more features, but when it starts to break up the user experience, that's when it starts to bug me. Sense 6 is doing a great job of adding features and still keeping the experience pretty smooth and snappy, something which TouchWiz has struggled with for a long time, and it's even more annoying when it's running on top of the line hardware like the Snapdragon 801. Both devices have the raw speed, there's no doubt, but the M8 seems to know how to harness it and offers the smoother and more polished performance in my opinion. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Peace out.